Hey, you ever wonder how a place called Louisiana ended up with a French name? It's like the French decided to name a state after a cat they met at a gas station.
Well, it turns out Louisiana's story started way before the French came. Think of it like a family tree with a weird twist, only the twist is a whole bunch of colonial power struggles. It's not just about the French, though. Louisiana's got a history that's like a soap opera with pirates, slave trade, and a whole lot of what the heck was that moments. So, let's start at the beginning way before the French came. Imagine a place that's like a melting pot, but instead of spices, it's a mix of cultures, languages, and a whole lot of history. And yes, the French did come, but they weren't the first, and they weren't the last. Louisiana's history is like a bad movie with a lot of plot twists and a happy ending you didn't see coming. So, if you want to know how a state got its name, how it got divided, and how it's still weirdly fascinating today, stick around. We're diving into the history of Louisiana, no puns, just facts and a little bit of flair. So what exactly are we talking about? Well, Louisiana is like that weird cousin who shows up to family gatherings with a bag of chips and a story about the French Revolution. It's not just a state, it's a vibe, a culture, and a whole bunch of history that's way more interesting than your average history class. Imagine a place where the French and the Spanish both tried to claim it, and then the Americans took it over, but the culture stayed French. It's like a melting pot, but with more jazz and less melting. It's also known for its unique blend of languages, like a mixtape of Cajun, Creole, and English. You can hear it in the music, the food, and the way people talk. It's like a language party, but with more gumbo and less drama. So, in short, we're talking about a place with a rich, complicated past, a culture that's like a spicy gumbo, and a history that's more interesting than a history book. Let's dig into it. No need for a history test, just a good story. Okay, so you think you don't care about Louisiana? Think again. You're probably eating gumbo right now, and you didn't even know it. That's a secret recipe passed down from the French, and you're enjoying it without a clue. That's why you should secretly care. Also, Louisiana is the only state that's still got that weird mix of languages. You ever heard someone say y'all and then switch to French? That's not a language thing, that's a culture thing. And you're part of it without knowing it. Plus, if you ever want to feel like a real American, go to New Orleans. It's like the US version of a Renaissance fair, but with more jazz and fewer swords. You're part of this weird, awesome history whether you like it or not. And let's not forget the crawfish. You've had them, you've loved them, and you've never even thought about where they came from. But that's exactly why you should care. Louisiana is the original place for these little crustaceans, and you're eating the legacy. So yeah, you might not care about Louisiana, but it's already in your life. From the food to the music to the weirdness, you're living it without even realizing. That's why you should secretly care. It's like being part of a secret club you didn't know you joined. So, here we are, 160 years into the future, and Louisiana's still basically the same, just with more people and fewer bayonets. Wait, no, that's not true. Bayonets are still the same, just with more tourists and fewer actual locals. Let me fast forward to the 1800s when Louisiana was basically a big, fancy French restaurant that got taken over by the US government. It was like a French meal, but with a federal bill at the end. Then came the Civil War, which was basically the South's version of a bad breakup. Louisiana tried to leave the Union, but the Union wouldn't let it go, and it ended up in a really long, messy fight over cotton and pride. After the war, Louisiana got a new state constitution, which was basically a fancy, legally worded "I don't want to be a slave anymore" letter. It was a big deal, but everyone still mostly did what they wanted. Fast forward to the 1900s, and Louisiana is basically a swamp with a great soundtrack. It's got jazz, voodoo, and a lot of weird laws, but it's also got some of the best food, culture, and weirdness in the country. Louisiana is like a big, spicy gumbo, lots of stuff mixed together, and it's really good. It's not just one thing, it's a whole bunch of things that came together in one place. It started way back when France had a big chunk of America, and they named it Louisiana after a French nobleman, but then the Spanish took it over, and it got a little more complicated. So basically, Louisiana is like a cultural melting pot: French, Spanish, African, Native American, and everything else in a big, spicy pot. It's like a history lesson with good music and more gumbo. In short, Louisiana is a place where lots of people, ideas, and flavors came together, and it made something really unique. Like a really good recipe that just keeps getting better. So next time you hear someone say Louisiana, imagine a big, spicy gumbo with a little history, a lot of culture, and a whole lot of flavor. Okay, so Louisiana's like this weird, fancy pizza that got stuck in a swamp. It's got a thick crust, a spicy sauce, and it's been around since the 1600s. But here's the thing, no one really owns it. Not really. It started when the French showed up and said, "Hey, this land is ours." But then the Spanish came and said, "Actually, we're in charge now." Then the Americans showed up and said, "We're taking it." So, it's like a land dispute, but with more bayous and less paperwork. Eventually, the US bought it all in 1803 for $15 million. That's like buying a whole state for the price of a fancy dinner and a few souvenirs. But they had to wait 10 years to actually take possession. So, Louisiana's like this big, complicated recipe that's been passed down through generations. Each country added their own spices, but it's still the same dish just with more history and fewer rules. And now, it's got its own unique flavor like a gumbo with a side of history. It's not just a place, it's a story that's been told, retold, and sometimes even misunderstood. But hey, that's what makes it interesting. So now that we've got the state's basic structure, let's talk about how it actually runs. It's like a giant family dinner where everyone has a role, and sometimes the parents are just really loud. The governor is like the mom or dad, trying to keep things in check while the legislature is the table full of cousins arguing over the last slice of pizza. But here's the thing, Louisiana's government isn't just a family dinner. It's more like a group project where everyone's trying to finish their part but keeps forgetting the instructions. The legislature passes laws, but the governor can veto them, like a kid refusing to eat their veggies. And then there's the judiciary, like the teacher who steps in when the cousins start fighting. They interpret the laws and make sure everyone's playing by the rules. But sometimes they're stuck in a loop, like when the teacher can't decide if the pizza is a vegetable or not. Oh, and don't forget the local government. Parishes are like neighborhood clubs with their own rules and budgets. They're the ones organizing the block parties, fixing potholes, and deciding if the local diner can serve crawfish on Sundays. So in short, Louisiana's government is a mix of family drama, group projects, and neighborhood gossip. But somehow, it all works, mostly because everyone's too busy eating crawfish to notice the chaos. So here's the clever twist: Louisiana isn't just a state, it's a culture. Like a big, loud, messy family that's always making noise and throwing parties. You can't just visit it, you gotta live it. It's like being invited to a dinner where the host is a 10-year-old who just learned how to use a microwave. And guess what? That culture is still alive and kicking, even with all the fancy laws and borders. It's like your favorite childhood game that you keep playing even when you're supposed to be grown up. You can't just stop playing. You have to keep adding new rules and new players. So Louisiana's not just about the geography or the laws, it's about the people, the music, the food, and the way they all mix together like a really loud, spicy gumbo. You can't just take a bite. You have to dive in head first and maybe get a little messy. The twist is, you don't get to leave the party early. Once you're in, you're part of the family, even if you're just visiting. It's like being invited to a birthday and then being stuck there for the whole weekend with your cousins and their weird, loud friends. So in the end, Louisiana's clever twist is that it's not just a place, it's a vibe, a feeling, a way of life. You can't just walk in and out. You have to feel it, eat it, and maybe even dance in it. That's the real secret ingredient. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you'd enjoy, take a look at the Kindle Paperwhite e-reader. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. So, the real secret sauce of Louisiana? It's not just the gumbo or the jazz. It's the science of the soil. Think of it like a giant, muddy cookie, sweet, sticky, and full of secrets. The soil here is basically a mix of old river deposits and ancient swamp sludge. Like a geology buffet, you get a little of everything, and it's all really, really wet. This soil is super rich in nutrients, like a superhero of farming. It's why you can grow rice, sugarcane, and even some weird plants that don't know what they're doing. And let's not forget the water. Louisiana is basically a giant floating marshmallow. It's always wet, sometimes sinking, but somehow still standing. The science of this place is why it's a weird, wonderful, and sometimes soggy place to live. You can't really blame the people for being a little resilient. So imagine Louisiana is like a giant, slightly confused muffin. It's got layers, it's got spice, and it's got a weird amount of crawfish. It's not just a state, it's a vibe. A vibe that's like a french fry dipped in hot sauce and then put in a blender with jazz music. You can't really tell where one culture ends and another begins. It's all just delicious confusion. So if you're ever in Louisiana, just think of it as a muffin that learned to dance. It's not just a place, it's a party with a long, spicy history. Okay, so you're like, wait, Louisiana is a state? But it's French and Spanish. How does that even work? Well, it's like if France and Spain had a baby, and that baby got a slice of America for its birthday. It started with the French, then the Spanish, then the Americans, and somehow it all just stuck. Like a weirdly popular TikTok trend that everyone kept using. And then like the US said, we're gonna make this a state. And it just happened. No one really fought over it, because everyone was too busy being confused about the whole thing. So the history of Louisiana is like a really long, confusing game of pass the parcel, but with countries instead of presidents. And somehow, you end up with a state named after a French guy. It's wild, but it's true. And now it's just part of America, even though it feels like it's still in France, or Spain, or somewhere else entirely. Okay, so the first myth is that Louisiana is just a fancy French place. But here's the truth: Louisiana's French roots are more like a distant cousin at a family reunion. It's not the main story, it's just a really cool guest who brought some great food and a little drama. You see, Louisiana's real story starts with the native people, the Choctaw, the Caddo, and the Natchez. They were here way before the French ever showed up, and they had their own awesome culture, not just a bunch of trees and swampy land. Then the French came in the 1600s, like a party crasher with a fancy hat and a boat. They tried to make a colony, but it was like trying to teach a cat to do math. They mostly just got lost in the bayous and made some pretty bad decisions. Then the Spanish took over, and it got even more complicated. They had a really long time in power, like a soap opera that's been running for centuries. They tried to fix things, but honestly, they just made it more confusing. So yeah, Louisiana is definitely French in some ways, but it's way more than that. It's a mix of cultures, mistakes, and weirdness. And that's part of what makes it so interesting. Don't believe the myths. Louisiana's story is way more complicated than a fancy wine list. So, here's the next myth, that Louisiana was always French. But, nope. It's more like, it was French then Spanish, then back to French then American. Like a drama series with no plot. You see, it's like a family drama. France takes it, Spain takes it, France takes it back, and then the US just takes it. No one said it was fair, but hey, it happened. So, Louisiana is kind of like a country that got adopted by a lot of different countries. It's like a kid who moves from France to Spain, then back to France, then gets taken in by America. You'd think it'd be easier, and to make it even weirder, when the US took it over, they kept the French laws and traditions. It's like a pizza with a French sauce and American toppings. Kind of weird, but still good. So, the real takeaway? Louisiana's history is more of a shared custody situation than a straightforward ownership. And that's just how it rolls. You probably don't think about it, but Louisiana's culture is everywhere. From the way you say y'all to how you cook gumbo. It's all in your everyday life. Even your music tastes might be Louisiana. Zydeco, jazz, blues. It's all in there. You just don't know it's from a place with a nickname like the Pelican State. Even your love of crawfish boils might be from Louisiana. It's a whole thing, like a party in a pot, and you don't even realize it's a tradition. And let's not forget the food. You might be eating jambalaya or boudin without even knowing it's Louisiana's answer to comfort food, like a warm hug in a bowl. So next time you're eating, talking, or even dancing, remember, Louisiana might be hiding in your everyday life, like a sneaky friend who's always there. So here's the thing, I tried to make a map of Louisiana in my head, and it's like trying to draw a spiderweb with a crayon. I messed up the borders, I forgot the bayous, and I accidentally put New Orleans in the middle of Texas. But then I remembered, Louisiana's like that weird cousin who shows up at family dinners with a story about every state. You know the one. Oh, I was in New Mexico, then I drove to Arizona, and then I got lost in Nevada. And that's the real Louisiana, messy, complicated, and full of stories you didn't know you needed. It's like a really good mystery novel, but with more gumbo and fewer plot holes. So yeah, Louisiana's history isn't just about cotton and crawfish, it's about resilience, rebellion, and the kind of weirdness that makes you go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And if you're still confused, just remember Louisiana's like a good joke. You don't get it at first, but then you laugh, and then you're like, oh, I get it now. So here's the kicker, Louisiana's not just a state, it's a full-blown, record-breaking, cranked to 11 extreme. We're talking hurricane season that's like a bad breakup, and the bayou's got more drama than a soap opera. And don't even get me started on the crawfish, those things are like tiny, angry, crustacean rock stars. They've been cooking up chaos since the 1700s. Oh, and the music's Zydeco and jazz? That's like the state's heartbeat. Shaking and grooving like it's got more rhythm than a TikTok dance trend. Louisiana's got more history in a day than most places have in a century. It's like a time machine with a bad sense of humor, constantly throwing you into new adventures. So yeah, Louisiana's not just a place, it's a wild, crazy, record-breaking, cranked to 11 extreme. And honestly, I think it's still getting started. So one day, the French come, and they're like, we're gonna make a place here. But then they're like, oh, and also, we're gonna make it a French colony. And then the Spanish come and take it away, like, we're not done yet. Then the British take it, and they're like, we're gonna fix this. But then they're like, we're gonna take it back. And then the French come again, and it's like, this is a bad idea. Eventually, the US takes it, and they're like, we're gonna make it a state. But then they're like, we're gonna make it a state with a weird culture. And then they're like, we're gonna make it a state with a weird culture and a weird language. So, Louisiana ends up being like, we're a place with a lot of history, a lot of culture, and a lot of people who are tired of being messed with. And that's how it all goes horribly wrong. So yeah, Louisiana is a cool place, but let's be real, there's a downside. It's like when you get a free pizza, but the crust is so bad it's basically a conspiracy. First off, the weather. You get hot, humid, and the mosquitoes are like, we're here to party, not just bite. And don't get me started on the crawfish. It's like eating a tiny, crunchy lobster that's also a little bit spicy. You're not sure if you're winning or just surviving. Oh, and the French influence? It's great. but it also means you have to deal with the occasional Creole accent that's like a French rap battle with a southern twang. But hey, that's Louisiana. It's like a party that's also a survival game. You're always having fun, but you're also wondering if you're the only one who's sweating. So, how did we even figure out Louisiana was a state? Well, it's like when you're playing with Legos and you accidentally build a whole city. Someone had to say, hey, this is a place. And then everyone agreed. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you enjoy, take a look at the Kindle Paperwhite e-reader. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. It started with the French, like, oh, we're going to colonize this swampy place and call it Louisiana. But then the Spanish took over, like, no, we're going to colonize it and call it Louisiana too. So, the history of Louisiana isn't just about the land, it's about the people who claimed it, like a group text where everyone says they're the original owner. But the real question is, who actually got to keep it? Well, that's a whole other story, but the point is Louisiana's history is like a reality TV show where everyone wants to be the winner. So, in the end, we figured out Louisiana by a bunch of people claiming it, and then we just kept claiming it. It's like a game of tag, but with borders and history. So, here's a weird thing about Louisiana. Back in the 1800s, there was this guy named Jean-Baptiste Broussard who actually tried to declare himself the president of a tiny island called Ilenio. It's like if a squirrel tried to run for mayor of a nut pile. He wasn't even from the island, he just liked the idea of being a leader. Like when you're a kid and you pretend you're the king of the playground. But nobody actually listens. Broussard actually got some support from a few locals, but it was mostly a joke. He tried to make the island its own country, but no one took him seriously. Like trying to convince your dog that you're the alpha. In the end, the island was absorbed back into Louisiana. Broussard just kept living his life, maybe thinking he was still the president. It's like if your kid tried to rule the world and then just grew up to be a teacher. So, there you have it. Louisiana has a weird history, and sometimes it's just a squirrel with a dream, or a guy with a tiny island. Either way, it's weird and kind of funny. So what if we took the Louisiana Purchase and just, I don't know, abused it on purpose? Like, what if we didn't just buy land, but bought the whole idea of ownership and ran with it? Imagine if we turned the whole thing into a game of who owns more, and started buying up states like they were souvenirs. It'd be like a weird, slow-motion version of a land grab, but with more tea. But here's the twist. What if we used the Louisiana Purchase as a cover for something else? Like, what if we bought the land to hide a secret military base, or a giant chocolate factory? It'd be like a conspiracy theory. But instead of aliens, it's just a whole lot of land and a few well-placed bribes. And maybe some really bad real estate deals. So, in the end, what if the Louisiana Purchase wasn't just about land, but about power, control, and the idea that you can own something that doesn't even exist yet? So, imagine if Louisiana was a pizza. Not a fancy pizza, but a meatball pizza with a lot of cheese and some weird sauce. It's like a big, juicy, messy pizza that's been sitting out too long, but somehow still delicious. Now, think of the rest of the US as the rest of the pizza toppings. Some are fancy, some are boring, but Louisiana is that weird, glorious meatball that nobody asked for but everyone loves. It's not just about the food. Louisiana is like that one cousin who shows up unannounced with a gift basket of weird stuff and a story about their childhood. You don't know where they're from, but you're glad they're here. So, if the US is a big pizza, Louisiana is the weird meatball that's been sitting in the fridge for years, but somehow still tasty. And we're all just here for the story. That's how Louisiana stacks up. Like a meatball on a pizza. Messy, weird, and somehow totally necessary. So, here's the thing, Louisiana's history is like a family feud. Everyone has a different story, and no one can agree on who's the real dad. You know, like when your cousins argue over whose mom made the best gumbo. Scholars are basically like the aunties at a family reunion, loudly disagreeing about who's the real founder. Was it French, Spanish, or just a bunch of pirates with a taste for jazz? Some say it's all about the French, others say the Spanish were the real OGs, and then there's the weirdo who insists it's the Choctaw. It's like a history reality show, and no one's winning. And don't even get me started on the slave trade. Some say it's a tragic chapter, others say it's part of the story. Basically, everyone's got a different highlight reel. So yeah, experts are still bickering. But hey, if they can't agree on the past, at least they can agree on one thing: Louisiana's got a wild history. Like a raccoon with a PhD. So here's the real kicker: Louisiana's shape is basically a giant puzzle piece. And the trick? It's not just the land, it's the water. The Mississippi River cuts through like a big, lazy crocodile, making everything fit together just right. You see, the river didn't just flow through, it shaped the land. It's like if you had a big puddle and then someone poured water into it, the water would mold the ground into a bowl. That's basically what the Mississippi did to Louisiana. And guess what? That bowl shape made it perfect for the French and Spanish to build a colony. It's like the land was saying, hey, you can settle here, I'm a natural bowl for your town. But the real genius, the river didn't just carve it kept doing it. It's like a slow, sneaky artist painting the land over centuries, making it the perfect blend of water and land. So yeah, Louisiana's not just a state, it's a masterpiece of nature's slow, lazy artistry. And the river? It's the original influencer, shaping the land and the culture for centuries. People think Louisiana is just a swamp with crawfish, but it's way more than that. It's a whole history of French, Spanish, and American rule like a never-ending game of tag. And don't even get me started on the music like, it's basically the soundtrack to a weird, magical dream. They assume it's just New Orleans, but Louisiana is like a giant, weird state with a lot of weird parts. There's the bayous, the swamps, the cities, the towns, and even some places so small they're basically just a street corner with a sign that says welcome to something. They think it's all about the Mardi Gras and jazz, but Louisiana has a deep, complicated history with Native Americans, enslaved Africans, and French and Spanish settlers. It's like a history book with a lot of chapters and a lot of drama. People also think it's just a place with crazy food and a lot of heat, but it's also got a complex relationship with the US government, like it's been borrowed, rented, and occasionally forgotten. It's like a cousin who always shows up at the last minute with a weird gift. And let's not forget the language French, Spanish, and English all mixed together like a really loud, messy family dinner. It's not just a place, it's a living, breathing story with a lot of weird, interesting people. So here's this tiny thing that actually changed everything like a tiny pebble in a giant wheel. It's not the big events, it's the little stuff that made the whole thing go differently. Imagine if you're building a house, and instead of using bricks, you use marshmallows. The whole structure feels different, right? That's kind of what this tiny detail did. This little detail wasn't just a minor change, it was like a switch in the middle of a computer. Flip it, and everything resets. That's how powerful it was. People thought they knew Louisiana, but this tiny detail made them realize they were missing the whole picture. Like seeing a puzzle piece, but not the full picture. So next time you think about Louisiana, remember, it's not just about the big stuff. It's the tiny detail that made the whole thing work. And that's pretty cool. So here's the thing, Louisiana's area is like the size of a really big state. But if you think about it, it's actually about 1/10 the size of Texas. Wait, that's not fair. It's more like the size of a really big pizza. A really big, spicy, crawfish pizza. But here's the kicker, Louisiana's population is only about 6 million people. That's like the population of a medium-sized city. Like, if you put all of Louisiana's people into a stadium, they'd be like the third row. The third row, not the front row, not even the middle. So if you divide the population by the area, you get a very low population density. Like, if you had 6 million people in a pizza, you'd be like, man, that's a lot of meat. But in Louisiana, it's like a few slices of meat on a really big pizza. So, the number that puts Louisiana in perspective is 6 million people over 53,000 square miles. That's like a population of a city, spread out over a state the size of a whole country, but with more gumbo and fewer traffic jams. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you'd enjoy, take a look at the Kindle Paperwhite e-reader. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. So next time you're in Louisiana, remember, you're in a state that's big, but not too big. And if you're ever lost, just follow the gumbo. It's like a GPS, but with more soul and fewer turn-by-turn directions. So here's the thing. I once saw a guy at a bar in New Orleans try to explain Louisiana history by just listing every weird law. He said, you can't legally marry your aunt, but you can marry your cousin. It was like he was trying to be a trivia king, but he was just a trivia king who forgot the rules. He also said, you can't legally live in a house made of mud, but you can live in a house made of bricks. I mean, I get it, it's a swamp, but that's not a law. That's just a problem with the soil. Anyway, the point is Louisiana is full of weird laws. Like, you can't legally marry your aunt, but you can legally marry your cousin. It's like the state is just trying to be a little rebellious, and it's working. So, in the wild, this whole Louisiana law stuff shows up in places like the bar, the swamp, and the courtroom. It's like the state is a weird uncle who's always making up rules, but never explaining why. And if you ever find yourself in New Orleans, just remember, the laws are weird, the food is better, and the history is just a long story with a lot of mud. So you're like, Louisiana's a state, right? But what if I told you it's not just a state? It's a whole vibe that's been around since before your grandparents were born. And the real question is, why does it even exist? Like, why not just be part of Texas or Mississippi? You ever wonder why Louisiana is shaped like a boot? Or why it's got all those swamps and bayous? It's not just geography, it's history. And it's weird. Like, who decided it was a separate state? Was it a pizza box with a map on it? So the question almost nobody asks is, why does Louisiana exist at all? It's like a state that's been through a million wars, treaties, and rebrands. And it still stands there, like, I've got swamps and jazz and a weird name. You can't deny that. It's not just about borders, it's about identity. Like, you're not just from Louisiana, you're from the Louisiana that's been through a million things. And somehow, you still got the gumbo. That's the real question, and nobody asks it. So, Louisiana is not just about jazz and gumbo. It's also a place where the future is being built right now. You ever seen a place where the government is actually trying to make things better? They're working on smart cities, like New Orleans getting its own digital twin. It's like if your house had a twin that could predict when the toilet would clog. Also, they're trying to fix the flood problems with big pumps and floating neighborhoods. Imagine if your house could float like a boat, but you still had to pay taxes. And don't even get me started on the new energy stuff. They're into solar and wind, and some places are even testing for hydrogen power. It's like the future is just a few miles away. So, Louisiana's got its eye on the future, even if it's still stuck in the past with its weird laws and terrible crawfish. But hey, that's what makes it fun. So, there's this whole bunch of stuff about Louisiana that's I have no idea what happened. It's like a mystery novel, but the ending is missing. One of the weirdest things is the exact moment when the French and Spanish came in. Who actually made the first deal? It's like trying to figure out who started the first pizza place in New York. Also, the origin of the name Louisiana is a total enigma. Was it named after a king? A person who really loved the color blue? No one knows for sure. And let's not forget the ghosts. Some people say there are ghosts in New Orleans. Others say it's just the sound of the city. Either way, no one has proof, and that's fine. So yeah, Louisiana is like a mystery box with a bunch of questions and no answers. But that's what makes it fun, right? Like a puzzle that's just waiting for someone to solve. Did you know Louisiana has more French words than France? Seriously, it's like a French-speaking island in the middle of a swamp. You can say bonjour to a crawfish and it'll respond with say passe bon. And here's the kicker. The state flag has a crawfish, a flag, and a sword. It's like a superhero team with a crustacean. The sword's for fighting, the flag's for being proud, and the crawfish, just being a weirdo. Louisiana is also the only state with a Mardi Gras in its name. You can't spell it without the gras. It's like the state saying, we're not just a place, we're a celebration. And speaking of floats, the Mardi Gras parade is basically a 200-year-old street party with glitter, beads, and the occasional dragon. You can't have a Mardi Gras without a dragon. It's like the state's way of saying we're wild, and we know it. Finally, Louisiana is home to the only state capital that's also a town. Baton Rouge is like the town that got promoted to capital. It's a cool town with a name that sounds like a nickname for a redneck. So, let me just recap. Louisiana is like a big, spicy gumbo of cultures, history, and weirdness. It's been French, Spanish, American, and even had a tiny little revolution. It's got jazz, crawfish, and a lot of history in a small state. It's the only state that's ever been a French colony, then a Spanish colony, then an American state, and it's still got that French vibe. You can't even get a proper burger there without some cayenne. The state is known for jazz, but it's also the birthplace of the civil rights movement. And don't even get me started on the crawfish. They're basically the state's version of a lobster, but with more personality. It's got the Mississippi River, the French Quarter, and a whole lot of history in a small state. It's like a history book that's also a food blog and a music festival. In short, Louisiana is a place where everything is a little more spicy, a little more fun, and a lot more history than you'd expect from a state that's only the 18th biggest. Did you know Louisiana's state flag is basically a French flag with a crawfish? It's got blue, red, and a gold ball, which is like the French tricolor but with a crustacean twist. They even added a crescent moon for good measure, like a pirate's secret handshake. The flag was designed in 1892, and it's one of the few state flags that actually changed after the Civil War. It's like the state said, we're still here, and we've got a little French flair. But here's the real kicker. The flag has a hidden message. If you look closely, the gold ball is actually a sun, and the crescent moon is a moon. Together, they form a symbol that's been used for centuries in French culture. It's like a secret code that only the state of Louisiana can decode. So next time you see the flag, remember, it's not just a banner. It's a story of French influence, a little rebellion, and a crawfish with a big personality. Louisiana's got more layers than a cake, and we're just getting started. And that's the end of our Louisiana journey. Thanks for sticking with me through all the history, the jokes, and the crawfish. Stay curious, stay weird, and remember, the real magic is in the details. So there you have it, folks. Louisiana, the state that's basically a giant gumbo of history, culture, and weirdness. No matter how you slice it, it's a flavor bomb. From French to Spanish to American, it's been a playground for empires and a home for the unique people who call it their own. You can't really understand the soul of this place without eating a crawfish, dancing to Zydeco, or just listening to the stories people tell about it. So if you ever find yourself in Louisiana, just remember, it's not just a place, it's a vibe, a history, and a whole lot of good times. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious, stay weird, and always keep your crawfish on ice. Before you go, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us in the comments what you'd like us to make next. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.